From the top. Okay. Drop.
All right, just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Matt Hewett. I got into strength conditioning in 2011. I was an intern at the University of Tennessee in Martin. From there, I became an intern at the University of Tennessee. After that, GA'd at Tennessee Tech University, became the first full-time assistant in 2014. March of 2018, I became the director of athletic performance. I actually, just growing up, I was around my dad, who just was always in the weight room, and I was just always with my dad. So he was a football coach, high school football coach. So I felt like I grew up in a weight room. Got to college, high school, always loved just being in the weight room. I loved it more than actually being on the field and playing. I thought that was the greatest thing, and I finally figured out that I could have a job in that. I thought that was just the best thing in the world, was to be able to be in a weight room, to be around athletes always, like for the rest of my life, and to have an impact on them. So that's why I got into it. As I got started in CrossFit, I was actually at the University of Tennessee. Herman Dominic was the baseball strength and conditioning coach at Tennessee, and he was into CrossFit, and he just kind of took me under his wing, and we started doing some different things. He showed me movements, and then from there, I was just looking for a spot in strength and conditioning, and there happened to be one at Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech at the time had Rich Froning, Dan Bailey, these guys that were huge into CrossFit, big CrossFit stars. I thought, man, if I can get a job there, like, I know I'm good at this, I can become great at it. And so that was like how I got into it. And then from there, I competed at the regional level in 2013 and 14. In 2015, I was asked to be on the team, Rich Froning's team, CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. And I've been on that team for 4 years. We won the CrossFit Games 3 of the 4 years and finished second one of those years. Between CrossFit and having a full-time job as a strength coach was extremely tough, and how I like to tell people is you have to have great people around you, a great support system, and I did that. I had a great boss. Casey Kramer was a phenomenal boss. He wanted me to succeed in CrossFit, so he allowed me to do things that maybe somewhere else they wouldn't have allowed me to do. He was, totally pushed it towards me. I had a very supportive girlfriend, fiance, then wife, and my wife Brooke. And she always wanted me to push me to be the best at anything, and CrossFit was one of the things that she was a great support system. The people around us on the team were a great support system. So I think that was the core of why I was successful, is just that I had great people around me. Being able to get up at 4:30 in the morning, train your teams, go immediately into your training yourself, back to training teams, back to training yourself, and fitting all that within, being good at both. That's tough. In some ways I sacrificed on both ends. As a strength coach, maybe didn't develop as much as I should have. I developed as a coach because I was able to coach people better, but doesn't necessarily, I knew how to coach them better. So that's one of the things that I've probably missed out on in the last few years, is being able to develop as much. But then I also learned a lot of lessons as a professional athlete that I wouldn't have gotten. So, and being a professional athlete and a strength coach, you're around kids that, they, aspire to be a professional athlete, and they want to know what it takes. And to see someone competing at the same time, I don't know, I just felt like I had a better relationship with my athletes, because they knew they could trust me more, because they knew I was, busting my butt to work out, and like almost feel like that they knew what I was going through, and I knew what they were going through. And I felt like the relationship between my athletes and myself was just stronger because of that. Yeah, strength coaches in general seem to have just look down on it, on the, sport, or, only a small percentage of people actually compete in CrossFit. So I think it just gets a bad rap from AT strength coaches as far as injuries. I think that's the biggest thing that people always talk about, is like, oh, we're gonna have shoulder injuries, we're gonna have all these different things. I agree, like if you do it wrong, yes, you're gonna have some issues. The way that I have used CrossFit, not necessarily that I use it in my programs because I really don't use it that much. I separate my own program for myself versus a program for my athletes, and that's no different than a lot of strength coaches. I feel like a lot of guys are like power lifters or Olympic lifters, but they train their athletes different. I'm no different than that. I do CrossFit, but I also do, I run, I swim, I do bodybuilding stuff. I do it all. Like I enjoy working out, and just like anyone else should that is in their profession. The way that I've kind of blended things is I use it as a GPP, general physical preparedness, and that I limit some of the movements that normal CrossFit would do. I kind of mix that in with different things that I feel like are safe. So up, downs, burpees, however you want to call them. We have bikes, we have rowers. There's different ways to be able to use CrossFit, in my mind, on athletes that is safe. But it's not something that I'm going to do all year. It may be at the beginning of a periodization cycle, maybe at the end. It may be just something in the middle where I'm like looking at guys over 4 or 5 weeks and they just look like they're just not having fun, like they're just in the same routine. I like to break it up, and that's a great way to do it. So that's how I've used it over the last few years. I think it's going really well. Like I said, I don't use it all the time. For some teams, I never use it. So it just depends on the team. Some of the best coaches I've ever seen are at CrossFit gyms. Now, there are some at other gyms that are like, they're just standing there. They're a warm body in a room. So you have one extreme to the other. So if you are a young coach and you are taking your team to a CrossFit gym, just make sure that it's like a legit gym and you feel like that it's something you would do yourself and feel safe doing yourself. That's my biggest thing. I think there's great gyms. We have a great gym in town. Darren Hunsucker is he was on the team one year. He was one of the best coaches at coaching different age levels that I've ever seen. So I think it just depends on the gym. The biggest lesson that I've learned in my strength and conditioning career is that there are so many different ways to train, and that none of those are really wrong in a sense. You just have to get out there. You have to find something that you believe in and that you believe, but also be very open-minded. I think that's a lot of young coaches especially get hooked on one thing and they just focus in on it. But you have to be able to have, and I feel like I do this with myself because I'm a CrossFit, but like Olympic lifting, powerlifting, my world has just opened up to different kinds of training, and that you have to have an open mind going into strength and conditioning, in my mind, to be successful, to be doing different things, to not always just be focused on one thing in specific and to shun all the others. I think that's, in my mind, it's the wrong thing to do. I think you need an open mind. The biggest mistake, I'm gonna have to try to think. Communication is probably the biggest thing that a young strength coach needs to know, that it's not just training teams. You're having to deal with other things. You're having to deal with sport coaches. You're having to deal with athletic trainers. And if you don't have a good line of communication between all those people, something's going to go wrong and you're going to get blamed for it. So I think as a young coach, and just looking back on the last few years of my coaching experience, like just being able to talk to a coach or a trainer and to make sure you're all on the same page, because if not, I think that you get in trouble there. One lesson that I want to send to the next generation of strength coaches, I feel like the millennial generation feels like everything should be given to them. I see this a lot with interns, and just in the last few years, it's kind of crazy. They already feel entitled to, just because they have a degree or they have a certification, entitles into a job, which is, I'm sitting back and just like, that's unreal. Like, you have no idea. You have to know every facet of what it takes to be a strength coach, as far as like, you got to know how to clean stuff, and like, how to describe it is just, I feel like people are entitled, and as a strength coach, you have to know that you're sacrificing so much. You're sacrificing time with yourself, your family, everyone around you to do this profession. You have to get up early, you have to stay late, you have to go in on weekends. If you do not accept that in the beginning, you're not going to be a strength coach. All right, you have to know that going in. You think, oh, I've got my degree, I've even got a master's degree, I have my certification, I can coach. You're probably going to be dead wrong. All right, so if you were thinking about being a strength coach, you need to find a good place to intern and see if you like it first. Because if you don't, you need to find out early on. In my opinion, like you need to find out early on if you're willing to make the sacrifices, because you will give up a lot of things in life, but it's very rewarding. If you like being around athletes, if you like changing lives, you like seeing people grow and develop over 4 to 5 years, you're gonna love it. I love it for that reason alone, is like just seeing the development, not only as an athlete, but just as a person. And you can have a great impact on that. If you are a good person, you can make an impact on someone that comes in that maybe has not had a good upbringing. You can be like their mentor going forward. It's a great feeling. I love it. The lesson I like to send to sport coaches is that how you trained when you were an athlete is definitely changed depending on how old you are. I know you just have to, what you did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago is different than what maybe doing now. So it's you need to trust that whoever you're working for or working with, you need to trust that they know they have a good knowledge base and that they are going to take care of your athletes in the best manner they need to. The lesson from up and coming freshmen going into college, so I tell coaches this all the time. They're like, well, he's never been in a weight room. I'm like, yes, love it, because you have no bad habits. All right, you come in with bare bones, and I can work with that. High school strength coaches, when I'm looking at new athletes that I get in, there's a lot of great high school strength coaches out there. But some of the things, proper hip hinge is probably the biggest thing, like being able to bend at the hips, use your hamstrings, but that is the main thing. Proper squat technique. Those two things are the biggest. I can work with that. If you're a good high school strength coach, those are the two things that you have hammered down, and that's what I would like to see coming up. An upcoming freshman, you need to just be able to do the basic things. You need to know how to do a good push-up, a good body weight squat, and if you could do those two things, I can teach you everything else. That is it. You just need to be able to move well and move right. The message to the parent that has a young athlete is that, again, you need to, if you have a so-called guru in your town that is training people, you need to check them out and make sure that they really know what they're doing, and don't just because they are an expensive person, the expensive to be with, doesn't mean they're the best. Doesn't even mean they know what they're doing. So just be wary of people, and the people you're surrounding your children with need to be good people that are doing everything for the right reasons and not just for money. What brings value to a strength and conditioning coach is the ability to take good teams and make them great. And it's hard to be evaluated in the fact that you may be an amazing strength coach, and you may do your job so good and your team still might not win. And it's hard for the outside perspective to see that. The coaches too, administrators, are like, well, we didn't win. It's got to be somebody's fault. It's got to be the strength coach. It's got to be the coach. But just being able to know that what you are doing, if you are taking the proper steps and you are developing your athletes, and you can see that development. Now, it doesn't have to be like PRs. That's the thing that drives me nuts, is I don't test around here very often because of that reason. But if I can see someone that could not squat right, had bad knee problems, had bad ankle problems, if I can see them progress over the course of 3 to 4 years, then I feel like I've done my job right, and then I've made them the best athlete that they could possibly be. I think if you can do that, then you are bringing value to your job as far as putting the best product out on the field that you can. My name is Matt Hewett, and this is Lessons in Strength.